Okay, we've talked about LFO1 and LFO2. Let's not forget that there is actually an LFO3. Yeah. Nothing, you just don't, with this synthesizer, it's everything. You get everything. Okay, so you get a third LFO. And our third LFO is hidden over here in VCO3. This is kind of reminiscent of Mini Moog. The Mini Moog, the first really portable performance synthesizer, doubled its third oscillator as its LFO source. This excites some people and frustrates other people, but it was really a great implementation. But there were some limitations about it. Here, one of the limitations about that was that if the oscillator was in audible mode, being an oscillator, it was then an audio range modulator, which is cool, but it's also not cool if you were looking for an LFO that was sub-audio standard LFO. Arturia came up with a solution for this concept. We can currently use VCO3. I'll show you right now. I'll turn it on. This is VCO1 and VCO3. And they're both happening at the same time. Now, let's go and apply VCO3 as an LFO. We might expect to hear audio range modulation. Here, let's modulate oscillator 1 with oscillator 3. And here's what we're going to hear. That's a pretty fast rate, but that is not audio rate. So while we're hearing oscillator 3 be a perfectly happy sawtooth oscillator, it is also modulating the frequency sub-audio of oscillator 1. Now this is where we get into this LFO div area and use these buttons. What these are increasingly slow modulation rates that are coming from VCO3. I'm going to guess that there's a divider in VCO3, and that's why we can use it as an oscillation source that is going slower than the oscillator itself. But listen. See, they get increasingly slow. Okay, so we have established that we can use oscillator 3 as an oscillator and a sub-audio or low-frequency oscillator at the same time. So here's what we're going to do. We need to listen to these waves first. Let's get back to 16. We have the sawtooth. We have the square. We have the triangle. And the sine. I went through those kind of backwards. Now, and keep in mind that over here in the matrix, we are controlling the amount. We have a pretty wide range. And you might say to yourself, okay, what can I do to manipulate the speed here? Well, you can do, if you're using VCO3 as an oscillator, you don't want to mess with coarse because you'll change the pitch of your oscillator. But if you're not using oscillator 3 as an oscillator, you have increased frequency change ability by using your coarse knob. Faster, or so you can get 16 to be pretty slow or pretty fast. Wow, into the audio range. But the minute you start turning the coarse knob, you're going to be altering the audio frequency of oscillator 3 if you're using it, so you have to keep that in mind. But otherwise, if you want it slower, these options are pretty reasonable modulation speeds. Okay. You'll also notice as I'm playing, it's getting faster. It is, of course, controlled by the frequencies, the voltages coming out of the keyboard. So if you want to disable that, you can do that. And remember that you'll always get the frequency, the last frequency that you played as the bass. So if you want it to be a low frequency, you can start off with a low frequency. And then when you press keyboard track, that will be the basis for what happens after keyboard tracking is off. So if you get to decide. So that's really kind of cool, kind of the under the hood sort of function there. Also, turning keyboard track means that, you know, you get the same modulation no matter what frequency you're playing. And of course, I'm directing it to frequency, but we could direct it anywhere you want. So it is a really versatile way to have another LFO just sort of hiding in the wings. And remember how I told you that, you know, you can use these LFOs because they have the single function. You can be using these as envelopes. So you could like use this as a triangle envelope and use this as a ramp envelope and direct it elsewhere and still desire modulation of the repeating sort, the cyclical sort, the periodic sort. And so you can draw that through your LFO3, all the while using Oscillator 3 still as an oscillator. So you've got an LFO, even if you're doing the crazy stuff that I suggest you do with these LFOs, turning them into envelopes, you can still be getting just a straightforward envelope. Here, let's do it just for fun. Let's set this to triangle, single, and direct that to the frequency of oscillator 1. And we'll direct this, we'll use a ramp, and we'll direct this to oscillator 2. We'll bring in oscillator 3, which currently doesn't have a frequency. We'll give it frequency back. So there, we're using our LFOs as envelope generators, and we're using VCO3 as it's being a very nice oscillator as a low frequency oscillator at the same time. That is one of the major strengths of the synthesizer. It's incredible that you can do that.